In 1883, I had been living with my friend, Sherlock Holmes at Baker Street, London. We were both bachelors. One early morning in April 1883, Sherlock Holmes woke me up saying, "Hey, Dr. Watson. Sorry to disturb you, but a young lady is waiting to see me in the waiting room. I can guess from her nervous look that she has something important to tell us. I think it's going to be another interesting case, so we can look forward to some adventure." Sherlock Holmes always looked for an opportunity to apply his keen brain to some problem which seemed impossible to solve. It helped him to overcome his boredom. As for me, it was always a wonder to discover Holmes' great genius. I followed him through the turns and twists of the case. Holmes had an uncanny knack of digging out the cause of a murder, a robbery or a crime by studying the most trivial, it was the seemingly secondary clues, facts mentioned by a victim or client, that led to the discoveries. Holmes and I walked down to the waiting room. "Good morning, madam," Holmes said coolly, surveying the person of the lady with a quick observant glance. Everything a person wore, the very shape of a person's hands and smells coming from one, provided Holmes an understanding of a man's personality. "So you have had a rushed half-hour ride by dog-cart from the southwest," Holmes said with a steady glance. The woman's eyes dilated. "So you knew I was coming? Well, the clay on your shoes tell of the land you come from. The spattered mud on your coat could only come from that thrown up by dog-cart, especially as you sat on the left of the driver." I was amazed at Holmes' extraordinary perceptions. He walked up to the lady and continued, "You are shivering, but it's not the cold that is troubling you. It's terror. Fear." The lady had, by now, resigned herself to Holmes as an all-knowing genius. "Now tell me what ails you, madam." "I am Helen Stoner, Mr. Holmes. I live with my stepfather, Dr. Roylott Grimsby, at our farm at Stoke Moran." "So I was correct about the origin of the clay and the area you come from," Holmes smiled. "Continue, tell me all from the beginning." He put his head back and closed his eyes, letting her words trickle through his ears. "My stepfather was a doctor in my India, many years ago. He married my mother, Mrs. Stoner, who was a widow. My sister and I were only 9 and 10 years old then. Our mother left all her money in her will to both of us. Our stepfather was to give us a substantial amount of the money every year after our marriage. Our mother died soon after. My stepfather is a man of uncontrollable temper. In India, he killed a butler for some minor offense. He was imprisoned. After being released, he returned with us to Stoke Moran. Here he lived an abnormal life. He would pick up a violent quarrel with anyone who crossed his path. He took to the company of gypsies whom he allowed to camp at Stoke Moran farmlands. He had brought a cheetah and a baboon along with him from India. These he allowed to roam freely in the farms. Now she became serious and sad. "Carry on, Ms. Stoner," said Holmes encouragingly. "As you can guess, Mr. Holmes, our life was full of fear and hard work. No servant would stay with us for fear of the bad temper displayed by Dr. Roylott and the terror of the cheetah. My sister and I got attached to each other more than ever. We often slept clinging to each other. One day, she asked me if I had heard a low whistling sound at night. Since I had been fast asleep, I had not. Then came the fatal night." Helen Stoner became quiet and seemed to be caught by terror. Holmes said in his soothing voice, "Tell me all, Miss Stones. Allow me to help you." Helen spoke with a tremble. "My sister had just become engaged to a young man. One night, as we lay in our room, we heard the same low whistling sound. Suddenly my sister's eyes dilated wide and her face was distorted with fear. She screamed, 'The Speckled Band! The Speckled!' Then she fell dead. I was overcome with fear and have always had nightmares since then." "What do you think was this speckled band?" asked Holmes. "Perhaps the spotted handkerchief that the gypsies tied around their heads must have appeared in my sister's dream." Holmes looked at her with an empty poker face, showing no reactions. "No, Ms. Stoner. We are in deep waters. It was more than that. Can you help us survey the Stoke Moran house?" "Yes, tomorrow. My stepfather is going to be away at London. If you can reach the farm, I shall show you all around. Mr. Holmes, please help me. I fear a similar fate on the farm." Are you sure you have told me everything about your stepfather? Yes, I think so. Holmes pushed aside the cuffs at Miss Stoner's wrist. A deep blue mark left by 5 fingers was clearly visible. Dr. Roylott has not been very kind to you. He scarcely knows how strong he is. This mark was left by his holding my wrist. In a bad temper, asked Mr. Holmes. Well then, we shall see at Stoke Moran tomorrow. Helen got up and hurried away in a coach. As Holmes and I got up to have supper, a tall giant of a man loomed at the door. He had a large bulldog of a face lined with gashes. He seemed to be breathing heavily as if in anger. So my daughter Helen has been here, he said. I traced her to your house, Mr. Holmes, because you are the only one who meddles in other people's affairs. But I warn you to keep off my business. The large man, obviously Dr. Roylott, picked up an iron rod from near the fireplace, twisted it and threw it on the ground before leaving. Holmes laughed. Watson, I have my true adversary now. He picked up the rod jerk and straightened it with a smart jerk. Next morning, we were off from Baker Street. Miss Stoner waited for us at Stoke Moran. It was obvious from her look that the monstrous man, her stepfather, was not around. She took them to her room. Holmes looked around with his keen eyes. I wonder why the builder made a window
opening to the adjoining room and not to the open air. Who lives in the next room? Dr. Roylott. Now show me Dr. Roylott's room. Everything seemed commonplace to us, including a bell rope hanging harmlessly at the window. One end of the rope was near Roylott's rocking chair. So Dr. Roylott pulls this rope to ring the bell and summon the servants, said Holmes, tugging. It was a dummy rope. The bell did at the rope. To everyone's surprise, not ring. The rope was only fixed tightly to the window going into Helen's room. Now, is there a platter for milk anywhere in the room? I mean to feed the cat, asked Holmes. There are no cats here. Only a cheetah, said Helen. Well, a cheetah is a big cat, said Holmes, and now Watson and I shall hide somewhere in the barn nearby. You lie down to sleep as usual tonight and scream if you see anything unusual. Keep your door unlocked from inside, Helen. We'll see no animal comes in. At night after supper, Roylott returned to bed and so did Helen. For an hour nothing happened. Suddenly, Helen heard the low whistling sounds and looked up at the window from where it came. A large snake with white spots was flicking its tongue and looking down. Helen screamed. In no time Holmes and Watson had dashed into her room with a torch and a pistol. Holmes took a stick and struck at the snake. It hissed and turned back from the window. In a few seconds Dr. Roylott in the next room gave a horrible scream. Holmes broke into his room and found the spotted snake slither away. It had taken 10 seconds for the snake's bite to kill Dr. Roylott. The game was up. When Helen recovered from her terror, they all sat near the fire. They draped a cloth over Dr. Roylott. Holmes then explained his method of deduction. It is not so difficult to calculate, Dr. Watson, that Roylott did not want his stepdaughter to get married because he would then have to part with money left by their mother. When Helen's sister was engaged to a young man, Roylott designed her death. He suspected that I was on his track after Helen saw me at Baker Street. I knew he would act fast and it would be tonight. The reference to the Speckled band by Helen's sister, the dummy bell rope and the window made me suspect that these objects were related to the murder. And my suspicions have come true. Now Miss Stoner, you must see your lawyer soon and get the money bequeathed to you by your mother. As for payment of my fee, you can do that whenever you feel you are able to. For the time being, my success in the case is my reward.